Hi, I'm Kevin Jeter, along with Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, and Chris Jerry, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports here in the DMV. Let's talk about those Washington Redskins, very successful against the Buffalo Bills, 30-7. Afshin.
Very successful. It takes them to 3-0 for the preseason, so woohoo, right? But no, that's not what it's about. It's about finding out who can play on this team, evaluating the talent, and making those cuts when need be so you can start the regular season off on a good note. But again, they're 3-0, and they've done well in the preseason.
All right, Vincent, we do know this, that quarterback Rex Grossman and Pat White led the charge in that game.
Yes, they both had good games. Rex, though, he showed us a little bit of the bad Rex. There where he got lucky, that one play should have been an interception for a touchdown. But Rex passed for like 171 yards. Pat White played well, scored the touchdown. So, they did a good job filling in.
Well, the thing is, Game 3 of your preseason game, that's the closest you're going to come to regular season because you play your starters more than you normally play them in the other 4 preseason games. So the big thing for the Redskins is, you want to come out of there healthy, and that's what they're able to do. And as we've seen so far this preseason with other teams, a lot of teams have lost key players in the preseason so far. Redskins haven't really had that happen to them.
All right, as Chris alluded to, that this is the game in which you play your starters for the most part, but they're missing Robert Griffin III, who we don't know whether or not he's going to be ready or start the next game against Tampa. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. But now let's talk about the positions that have been wrapped up. We do know that Roy Halou has wrapped up the number 2 position, Afshin, for offensively.
Yeah, Kevin, he is really a good player, a good number 2 running back. What I always liked about Halou is that he can catch out of the backfield, and he's a pretty decent blocker in third down situations. But he'll provide something that Alfred Morris doesn't provide, and that's actually he's got good hands. He's going to be able to get you some of those 5, 6, 7-yard catches and possibly run them for longer if he can.
Vincent.
I agree there, Afshin. He's doing a great job. I think the Redskins on the ground had 208 yards, so that also shows that the offensive line is playing well. They're starting to gel. The running game looks good, and the passing game is really going to be something, Chris.
Well, they definitely needed to shore up and build their bench, but again, I'll warn all you guys, it is preseason and you never know. The biggest thing, for me, the biggest thing out of preseason is just don't get you guys healthy, because when you go into preseason, you basically know at least who 35 to 40 of your players are going to be. It's just a matter of who's going to make those other spots. So I think that'll help the Redskins. They should be about ready to go.
After the third game now that they just against Buffalo, now they'll cut down to 75. And then after the fourth game against Tampa, they'll cut down to their final 53. So now it's really cut down time. And you're going to see a lot of players over the next few days be cut from this team, and hopefully for them, look for employment elsewhere.
All right, in your view, any particular player that stands out to you in terms of making the team? Anybody that had a chance that you think they will make it or not make it?
Well, I think there's no one that I thought that was going to make it that wasn't going to make it, but there's somebody that's going to start that I wasn't sure was going to start, and he's a rookie, and that's Bakari Rambo. And I think he will definitely be a starter, especially with the injury to Brandon Merriweather, that he doesn't seem like he's going to be ready for the opener against Philadelphia. But Bakari Rambo has done a good job in the secondary, and that's where they're going to really need a lot of help this year.
Vincent, same question.
I think Bakari Rambo definitely is going to make the team. Emerson's going to make the team. They were top draft choices. Jordan Reed. Aldrick Robinson, he's going to stick because that guy has got speed and he's a real deep threat.
Right.
He provides something that the other receivers, even including Pierre Garçon, doesn't, and that is that deep threat. He can just shoot down the field, which none of the other receivers have, including Garçon and Leonard Hankerson, who's got the height, and of course Santana Moss, who's now slow, but he's still got the hands.
That's right. Well, he may catch a pass a few and may be the deciding factor, who knows, in some games, whether or not Robert Griffin III or Kirk Cousins starts. And that's another issue in which we're going to address right now. Wow. Who's going to be playing for the next game against Tampa? Is it Kirk Cousins or is it Robert Griffin III? Who's going to start? Better yet, on September the 9th in Tampa or at FedEx Field. Well, against Philly, I should say.
Yeah, I think I said our last show that I thought Griffin would get some snaps in the preseason, but now I think that they're probably going to hold to not playing him. And I don't know if you want to play Kirk Cousins. One of the games that happened over the weekend with the Jets, Geno Smith had a bad game, and then all of a sudden they put in, the former quarterback, whose name escapes me right now. Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez, and he goes down with a shoulder injury. So the point is, if you're the Redskins, what you don't want to do is, if you know Griffin is not going to be ready, you definitely don't want to put Cousins in it with a chance of him getting hurt in a meaningless preseason game. So I think what you'll see is Sexy Rexy Grossman. He will be the quarterback, and Pat White, and that's the way it's going to go next weekend, I think.
Those two guys are the ones who are going to play a majority of that game. And the fourth preseason game, as always, is for those players that you might think that they have a slim chance to hang on and make the team as a third string or a fourth string even, because the rest of them are going to be gone, and then hopefully, in their case, like I said earlier, that they'll look for employment elsewhere. But you don't want to ever put anybody in Game 4 of a preseason.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Robert Griffin III, $10,000 fined by the NFL, and Chris is shaking his head for a uniform infraction.
Well, it's classic NFL. This is their rules, but, if you don't get anything cleared through them before, you wear it, then they can fine you. $10,000 is a pretty steep fine. It's just, this is what the NFL does, though, and the players need to understand that you have to clear your stuff through. You can't be tricking up your helmet or putting extra things on. But I thought that was really silly.
Just like Vincent didn't get the memo, it was suit day today on the Nation's Capital Sports Show. But I digress, Vincent.
Oh, I blame that on Avsheen.
I sent you some false info, my friend.
Anyway, Robert Griffin, he's got to be a little more careful about bringing attention to himself because, he knows the whole world is watching him. And, I don't think he had to wear that shirt. But on the other hand, it is a pretty big fine, and I'm hoping that the NFL at least maybe gives some of that money to charity, because that's what he was doing. He got that shirt from his charity work.
All right, we're going to talk about, we have a minute left. I know this is kind of fast paced here, but we know that for the first game, that's the regular season game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who do you have to win that game, and what quarterback do you think will start?
You know what, the Redskins, Kevin, they've followed through with what they said they were going to do throughout the whole preseason, and that Robert Griffin III would not start at all in any preseason game or even play in any preseason game. And they keep saying that they're going to have him open up September 9th. I'm going to agree with them now. I'm going to say, okay, Mike Shanahan is telling the truth, and they're going to play Robert Griffin III on September 9th.
All right, thanks a lot. You're next.
I say Philly's going to win that. No, let me make a correction. The Redskins will win that game. Philly will be tough with Michael Vick, but playing the game at home, I give it to the Redskins.
Did you say that, who was your prediction real quick? All right.
Redskins will win and Cousins will start.
All right. Wow. That's. Right. I think so, too. I think the Redskins will win, barely, but we'll see how that wraps up. All right, want to remind everyone that you are watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show on AIM, AIM, Comcast 69 and Files 38. And so now we continue here talking about the NCAA. Now this is going to be fun because once again, the NCAA has put its proverbial foot in its mouth again, but this time around they got things right. And it all starts with allowing eligibility to Stephen Rhodes to play for Middle Tennessee. Now, this reversal changes things because right now the NCAA was saying at first, well, you're not going to play because we're going to not allow you to play because you've been playing in what actually was basically sandlot games. So we'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah, it's intramural. The guy is in the service playing intramurals. He gets out of the service, so he has a full eligibility of 5 years, and the NCAA wanted to rule because he played intramurals that he was ineligible to play. Well, if it had been a guy who was not in the military, perhaps that might have stuck. But once Twitter world and Facebook world and social media and, people got a hold of it, the NCAA had no choice but to reverse, because there's no way you want to say to a person who just served over in the military overseas that, no, you're not eligible to play and get a scholarship because you played in some kind of intramural games while you're in the service.
That's right. It's completely, wait for it, unpatriotic. Avsheen.
Yeah, Chris, you're right. And there was a guy like that who's not in the military who they actually just said could not play, and that's Dante Hill of ODU right here in Virginia. He played apparently 2 years ago in a scrimmage less than 10 minutes in basketball. This is his senior year. He transferred from Clemson to ODU, and they found out that he played in a closed scrimmage for 10 minutes in Clemson, and now they've completely eradicated his senior season, so he can't play for ODU this year.
Vincent.
That sounds ridiculous because these guys aren't getting paid or anything like that. And back in World War II, there were a lot of guys that came out of the service. I know of guys that, they played for college teams. They allowed it back in World War II, so I don't see what's the difference now.
Well, Vincent's digging real deep in his grab bag, back when they almost had leather helmets.
Well,
Chris.
yeah, because Vincent didn't say that he served with some of them. That's what he left out. Back then, Army and Navy were the top two football teams.
Go Navy.
There you go. But yeah, it's just the NCAA has got to tread lightly on these kind of things because publicity will kill them, and they're already under pressure because the big five conferences now are already suggesting that, hey, maybe they're going to change things or break off. So they've got to get their act together.
Kevin, this organization, the NCAA, they're one of the most inconsistent and hypocritical sports organizations in the country, and it's pathetic how they handle situation by situation.
And we saw that debacle, and we talked about it on our last show right here at AIM, in which they talked about the Jersey incident. They backtracked, and now with this particular incident, we wonder if this has actually set a precedent going forward for future military athletes. Vincent.
Well, I think they should allow them to play. Like I say, those leagues, they're organized to a point. I mean, when I was in the Navy, I played on a flag football team. Okay, so some of it might be something like flag. I know some of the services, they have tackle leagues, but to not let them play in college, especially after serving your country and putting your life on the line, I don't think it's right.
No, well, definitely. I think that if there's one rule to start at, that should be it. If you participate in military service and you haven't played college, you should be able to get your eligibility. On the flip side, it sure does make some old kids coming into college playing,
Yes,
old
it
experienced
does.
men coming in to play college sports.
Have you seen Steve Rhodes compared to some of those other players at Middle Tennessee? He looks like a giant compared to those 18 and 19-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah. But it's all about giving someone their just dues, and he needs that. Chris.
Yeah, I couldn't say any more on that. Just that hopefully for Rhodes that he has a outstanding year at Middle Tennessee State University, which is a pretty good middle of the road football team. So, congratulations on getting your scholarship opportunity, and have a good time beating up on them little 18.
That's right.
kids.
And by the time he's done, he's going to be like an old man in sports, 30 years old. Afshin, we're going to let you have the last word on this one, man.
He said that basically what he did when he was in the service was play once or twice every 6 weeks. Is what he had to do, what he could do. That was his only time he could really play. Of course, what he was doing the other 4 or 5 weeks in between. But I'm looking forward to watching him play at Middle Tennessee. See what he does.
All right, we're going to let you have the last word on that, my man. Let's continue talking about more football. You notice that theme here? We went from the pros to college, and now we're going to high school football. Just what you came here for, people. The 2013 DMV high school season took off to a roaring start with the nationally ranked DeMatha Stags winning over the ranked, I should say, Phoebus, 24-20. Afshin?
That was a really good game.
You were there yesterday along with Chris.
Yeah, we went. Chris and I took a little road trip down there, and it was a good game to watch. It was closer than I think we both thought. DeMatha comes back with like 9 starters on defense, and then, of course, a couple of good wide receivers on offense, and their quarterback is a returning starter as well. So, the Stags, I think, are going to have a really good season, and they started off by playing against one of the better schools in Virginia, a 4A Phoebus school, Chris.
Yeah, arguably, DeMatha has been, over the past 10 years, the best high school football program in the D.C. area, and unarguably, Phoebus has been the best high school football program in the state of Virginia, regardless of classification. So that was a good matchup. And plus, in Virginia, it's very odd to get a private school, public school matchup. I had commented to you watching the warm-ups that it looked like men against boys because DeMatha was so much bigger physically than Phoebus. And in numbers, they had a lot more players than Phoebus did. But Phoebus hung in there, and for a 24-20 score, I was impressed, and I think Phoebus will probably cruise to the 4A championship in Virginia. DeMatha and Good Counsel, they'll be at the top of the WCAC this year.
All right, Vincent.
Well, it's good that DeMatha gets to go out and play the competition like they do. They got a fine program, and I would think that Phoebus would have been the underdog in that game.
They were.
And as it turned out, DeMatha, overpowered them a bit. But Phoebus is a good school down there.
Yeah, quite some interesting comments, Chris, you noted by the Phoebus coach, Coach Blunt, I do believe.
Yeah, Jeremy Blunt, he basically said that he felt that they were more physical than DeMatha, and he also felt that they were the better team.
All right.
And Jeremy Blunt is supposed to say that to his Phoebus fandoms, but I can tell you, having watched high school football for 40 years, if that coach really believes that, then he's in a fairyland, because there's no way they were better than DeMatha. They did great to hang in with DeMatha as long as they did. They would never have had a chance really against DeMatha. They would have needed some luck to win that game.
All right, going to let you have the last one on that. Let's talk about something that's even important in terms of the restructuring of high school football. Let's start with Virginia and Afshin, Chris, and Vincent. We all spoke about this during our pregame show. This is going to be kind of weird, because no matter if a team has a winning record, it won't make a hill of beans. Afshin.
No, it won't matter really in your district.
Yeah.
The regular season, teams are going to be they have been reclassified. So depending on who you play, but in the regular season, it's really not going to matter at all how you do. Yorktown, for instance, won the last 2 regular seasons, undefeated both seasons, 10-0 in each year. But even if they did that this year, it won't matter going into the playoffs because of the reclassification. There are a lot of schools that are being reclassified. We talked about Phoebus going down from 5A to 4A, Chris, and that's one of them right there.
Yeah, so what's basically happening, folks who are familiar with Maryland's system, Virginia has a system like that, and I thought Maryland's system was stupid, and so I think Virginia's new system is stupid, quite frankly.
I agree.
But I'm somewhat prejudiced, because having followed, Virginia High School League since the late 60s, the way they had it set up I thought was good. But now with the new reclassification, they make you play in a classification based on your enrollment. Before, you had the option to do play up, but now that's changed. So we'll see how it's going to work out.
Vincent.
Chris, let's give this a chance, okay? One good thing, it's going to limit some of the travel for some of the teams, okay? They won't be going and traveling 2 or 3 hours away. They're going to be playing within their class as far as, enrollment, like you said. But it's going to hurt like a brand new school, like this John Champ School out in Loudoun County. They only have 540 kids right now, but they're going to have to play in a division which their enrollment is projected to be like, 1,500 or more.
All right, we're going to let you have the last one on that, Vincent. We're going to move over to D.C. Public Schools. I know you want to comment on that, but we can do that off air.
I wanted to, but
and
that's
I know
all right.
you want to comment.
Yeah.
We only get a couple of minutes for this, and we can go on, but we need to stick to the subject at hand. I like your comment there, Vincent. And of course, the comments you guys were going to make were going to be good too. I just knew it was going to be awesome.
Kevin saved you, Vincent. We were
That's
getting ready to kill you.
That's right. I looked at them. So let's talk a little bit about D.C. Public Schools, because they're going to be doing something interesting. They're going to allow the charter schools to form pretty much a divisional league of their own. And it's kind of a weird situation there too, Afshin.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that one either. But yeah, the DC charter schools will actually form their own little league, and it's going to be very different than what was the DCIAA, and that's even a whole other story in itself. But they're not going to follow some of the same restrictions, requirements, and rules as the District of Columbia Public Schools.
All right.
Yeah, the problem that I have with the new DC Charter League, kind of like what Afshin just said, is because the DC public schools really go heavy after the DC public schools for ineligibility, but there's no incentive for the charter schools to do that. So we'll see how it's going to be. And there's only one really good charter school, and that's Friendship.
All right, Vince, I'm going to let you have the last word on this matter.
I think it's a good move for the charter schools, but it's certainly going to take some time, because some of the charter schools, they're lacking in finances, they're lacking in facilities. Some really don't have good gymnasiums right now. So it's going to take some time for them to get this program going.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Afshin, Vincent, and Chris. I want to remind you that you can also catch us on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network. Listen to us, the nation's capital sports show, where it's always on. Coming up next, we're going to talk baseball and then some more stuff. The MLB has that expansion of the instant replay. It's going to be taking place next year. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And remind everyone once again, this is the nation's capital sports show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Kevin Judah, along with Afshin Banal, Vincent Charles, and Chris Jerry. Welcome back to the nation's capital sports show, where it's most definitely on. Let's continue our conversation and talking about sports. You can email us at tncsportsshow@gmail.com. Let's talk about those Washington Nationals who had a winning streak at 5 games, but they lost one game, and now they're back to normal again. Some interesting stuff happening to them. Less than 30 games left in the season. They're not going to catch the Atlanta Braves, as we discussed. So let's go actually approach this from a different angle. A lot of strangeness in terms of trades or what happened for the Nationals as of lately. Kurt Suzuki, Suzuki, there we go.
There you go.
Sent back to Oakland. I mean, they're a contender, so they did him a favor. I mean, that's how I see that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they get rid of Roger Bernardina. And the weirdest trade, David DeJesus. And they ended up having him for a few days and sent them down to Tampa. And they got 2 minor league prospects, pitchers. Kind of weird. I don't know what they're doing there, but Chris.
Well, I don't know what they're doing. I think the only one at this table who thinks they know what they're doing is Vincent, because he thinks it was a good deal. But I didn't understand the trade just because, you acquire him. Basically, you acquired him to trade him. And then Suzuki, you give up on him. Though I think in Suzuki's case, I think he had like an $8 million option.
Yeah.
So I guess they weren't going to pick it up. Maybe, sometimes it's like Kurt will do you a favor. You're probably going to be in a pennant race. And he's a valuable player because even though he doesn't throw a lot of people out, he is a good catcher. So, I'm not sure what the Nationals are doing. But come this time next week, I guess, it's time for the call-ups. You can expand your roster from 25 to 40 with minor league call-ups.
And the saddest thing that I hated to see when Bernardina got caught in the shuffle, he was underutilized because the Nats didn't have anywhere to put him at, Vincent.
I know some of you guys are going to disagree with me because, I watch and see the emails and the exchanges and the things that we exchange through the email.
Get to your
But
point.
I think Rizzo is trying to stockpile pitching. And he's done that with these recent deals.
But there you go back to your pitching again. It's all about pitching. Stockpiling
it is.
pitchers.
It
All
is.
about pitching. What about the rest of the team for the Washington Nationals? I'm going to give you a hard time, my no-tie wearing friend.
All right, this gives the Nationals some ammunition if they want to make future deals, okay? The stockpiling of the pitching. Okay, the Nationals, Suzuki did a decent job, okay? Now he's with a pennant chasing team, okay? The Nationals need to see what Jonathan Solano is going to do, whether this guy is going to stick or not. I didn't understand the DeJesus deal myself. I got to agree with that. Bernardina, I still believe he has all the tools to be a good player, and who knows, the greener grass may be better for him, but I think, he was with the Nats at least 3 years, and they gave him enough of a chance.
Ashley, do you agree with this, what he's saying, man?
Bernardina,
Let him have it.
No, but Vincent, Bernardina never really had a legitimate shot at playing center field for this team ever. Even before Bryce Harper came and before Jason Worth came, he was always a backup in the outfield, even though he had a lot of speed and he could get on base. So I'll disagree with you a little bit there on Bernardina. David DeJesus, they seem to have picked him up. They picked him up off the waiver wire, and from all accounts, they didn't want someone else getting him. That's what I heard about the DeJesus situation. So then they let him go. Suzuki, Chris, I think you're right. Next year, Suzuki is going to be owed a lot of money if they have to buy him out, because I think there was an $8 million contract next year, but they could buy him out for 2.5 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So they probably said, no, we don't want to do that. Suzuki ends up going back to his old team. Oakland, they actually need a catcher because their starting 2 catchers are hurt, and their 4th catcher that they called up from the minors got hurt before the Suzuki trade. So there was a lot of stuff going on with what the Nats are doing, but I don't agree with a lot of what Rizzo did in this particular situation.
Chris.
Well, Afshin speaks for me. But in all seriousness, we'll see. The Nationals have, as we speak, the Nationals have played 130 games. So they've got 32 left, and at the end of the day, if it's all about seeing other people, like you mentioned, a new catcher coming in, if that's the case, I want to see once we get to September, when it's clear that you're not going to make the playoffs, that these people be given a chance to play. Because if they don't, it's like, well, what did you do this for? The idea is to bring younger people up from the minors so they can play. let's let them play.
Well, it almost sounds like a relationship. The Nationals want to see other people because perhaps, as Chris alluded to, they know that everything's not going to work out in terms of them actually winning the wild card and advancing into the playoffs. Afshin.
Yeah, they are too far away from winning the division, of course, and they're, I think, 8 or 9 games out from a wild card, so they have no chance. And one of those pitchers that they got in that trade, Vincent, was Dakota Baucus. I don't think a lot of teams are going to want him in any kind of trade that Mike Rizzo sees down the line.
We shall see.
Yeah, but they have no chance for the playoffs.
Well, the bigger question is, they should continue to win because it does wonders for them. That's a good thing.
Yeah, Worth is playing really well. Ramos is playing really well, especially since he came off the DL almost 2 months ago. I really like how Ramos has played, and when you have a starting catcher like that, you can give up a Kurt Suzuki, even though Kurt Suzuki is a pretty good catcher in his own right.
That's right.
Yeah, and Worth has done a really good job since he's been back from his injury, Chris.
Yeah, we'll just look at right now, again, you got 32 games left in the season. You're 65 and 65. Let's make sure you finish with a decent record over 500, and I think that can be done. I like to see them out of the last 32, 20 and 12. That'll be good. Don't you think so, Vincent?
Yeah, Vincent.
I think so, if they could get 20 wins. Now, they're not mathematically out of it yet. So once they are mathematically out of it, you will see a lot of these younger guys getting a chance.
All right, we're going to let Vincent have the last one on that because he is a dreamer. Dream on. I don't know what he's smoking, but nonetheless, it must be that crisp Washington air. So we're going to let you have the last word on that. All right, so we got some talented folks here that usually help us out.
Man.
But before you get into that, we've actually have a new site, the Nation's Capital Sports Show. We're excited about it. You can see the logo in the background. It's going to be dropping within the next 2 weeks. I mean, it's all types of stuff. I don't know if you can take a peek at this, but this is our new logo. As you can see, we have several logos, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. That's the one that's in the background. I'm going to do that. But look at our brand new studio. Look at that magic.
Can we get
How did we get that? Can we get a close-up of that? That is what Anthony Spallone and the talented folks are doing for us at appmesolutions.com in Chicago. And when the site drops, we're going to have all sorts of fun with that. But nonetheless, we haven't told anybody that this site right now, the studio thing is kind of, I guess I'm telling them now, it's kind of virtual. But nonetheless, speaking of talented folks, there are a lot of folks that make us look good and sound good each and every time that we do the show right here at AIM. And we're going to start with Devin Gallagher, the producer.
That's right, Devin Gallagher. And, of course, Janar Stewart, I think, is directing. I don't know if this is her first one for our show.
She's done a great job.
Thank you, Janar and Sally Galestino.
Good job. Jacqueline
Barris, Rhonda Mendoza, LJ Lacoma, Craig Syfax, Ken Briley, Steve Cordell, Kevin Sampson, and the whole list of the AIM crew. Excellent job, as always, and we love doing it with them. We love being here.
That's right. And speaking of doing a good job and talented individuals, we have a lot of talented guys sitting around this table, starting with Chris Jerry, starting with Afshin Banab, and, of course, last but not least, Vincent Charles. I'm Kevin Jeter. We thank you for watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show on AIM, Comcast 69, and Fios 38, and listening to us too, because there's a podcast version of the show on the Stitcher Radio Network and on iTunes and on Podomatic. We're all over the place, and we're excited once again about our new website when that drops. Check us out on Facebook at thenationscapitalsportshow.com. Once again, for the entire cast here at AIM for the Nation's Capital Sports Show, make sure you go out and have a great sporting weekend and a great sporting day. Until we talk again, take care.